Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Will Reedy from Watford, England. And Will volunteered to share his success story in this mind-body space, meaning TMS and what I've been referring to as perceived danger pain. And he'd like to just kind of share what he's gone through, where he's been, and kind of how he came out the other side feeling great, is what I'm assuming. So
Yeah,
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 so welcome, Will. I really appreciate you volunteering to share your story with my audience. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you've been going through, and we'll
yeah,
we'll let the conversation evolve from there.
yeah, sure. So basically, I, I commented on a couple of your videos towards the back end of last year, and they were just really inspirational. A couple of the testimonials I watched, and I watch your videos daily. And I remember saying to myself, look, I can prove to myself I'm a new person. I'm not in pain anymore, or I can just deal with the pain, even if it's there. I know what to do about it now. Um, when I have a big episode, and I know I just feel it will happen again, but like, it's how I deal with it. And I remember commenting on a couple of your things, and we talked about one of these testimonials, and I thought I wasn't quite there yet, but then in my mind, I was waiting for it to happen and then talking my brain out of the pain. And 2 weeks ago, just after Christmas, it happened and it came. And I was out with my wife walking the dog, and I bent down to pick up a ball, and it happened. And I thought, oh my God. But then that was the acid test, was kind of, your face immediately came into my mind. And as did all the panic. But then I thought, actually, what am I going to choose here? Because I've always chosen the pain. I've always chosen the kind of, I've got to be honest, the victimhood before that.
Sure.
And I thought, I've got a massive meeting this afternoon. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. And I'll be all right. And I just immediately started talking to myself out loud in the park, bit weird. My missus was just looking at me going, do it. I know what you're doing, because she knows all about this. I talked to her about it way too much. And the dog was a bit confused. She wanted the ball thrown again, but nothing. I just stood there, and then I thought, actually, I need to start walking now. I need to actually start doing something. And I did. And that afternoon, I got home. I thought, right, keep going, take your boots off, everything, that I would avoid doing if this had happened before. I did. I needed to have a shower. I got in the shower. I started lifting my legs up. It hurt, but I was like, I'm safe. I kept saying to myself, I'm safe. There's no structural problem. We know that. When I say we, it sounds a bit odd, but it's me and the pain. We both know that. And my brain as well. Just like, we're in control of this.
Yep.
And yeah, and that was it. And then I thought, right, I've got to do this testimonial now, because I'm now definitely a new bloke. But the key was that afternoon, I felt all right. I was just in this meeting thinking, my God, this is almost too good to be true. But I know I've worked hard for this, and that felt good. But mainly the next day, I went for a run. It was still hurting a little bit, but I thought, no, I know what this is. I know I've got a lot going on in my life right now. I'm going
Sure.
for a run. The run was a good run. And then the day after, on the Sunday, I was in the gym and I had a hard session, and I just came home and I felt so happy. Honestly, I can't tell you, kind of doing kind of little rocky, sprinting down the street, doing a bit of a rocky thing at the end of it, mainly because I was just knackered. But that was the proof to me that this TMS, even though I've known it all along intuitively, that was the moment. So I had to
So
email.
in the past, Will, would you have catastrophized, avoided everything,
Yeah,
and an episode like that would last weeks, months?
a week. It would have always lasted about a week. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to have like weekends on my back on the floor, and I used to feel so sad because I'm married to a very fit woman who's a personal trainer, physiotherapist,
Right.
runs Ironmans, and then here I was on my
Like,
back. So I mean, it was I did enjoy the attention. I've got to be honest, because I realized my body was like, yeah, I get attention. I get all my dinners cooked for me when I'm on my back like this. You know, there were benefits to it, and I think subconsciously I knew that, but I would catastrophize beyond belief. You know, I genuinely thought I would be paralyzed at some points. And mentally I was paralyzed. I didn't know what to do. And it was a really sad, it was very depressing. I was quite depressed for a while because I just didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what to do. But the thing is, I know there's always a solution. Unless you're dead, there's always a solution to absolutely everything, however bad it is. And I've always believed that. So there was always that flame of hope going. But so yeah, this
So,
that
so, so if you would, why don't you run us through some of the symptoms that you've had over the years? Was it mostly back pain, or was it?
No, no, I'd love to say it was, but honestly, I was making a list this morning, and I was. It made me laugh actually, at how ridiculous some of these things were. Actually, I'm trying to get ridiculous out of my vocab. That's another thing. But you know, it started off when I was younger. I tore my groin, my left groin, when I was playing football. Oh, fair enough. I was playing football. Um, and then, but things just kept coming. You know, Osgood in the knee. I kept getting muscle spasms in my back. I can't tell you how painful they were, and I didn't know anyone else who was getting them. My growing pains were just out of control. I know Sano addresses those. I started laughing when he said that in the book, because I remember I used to have sleepless nights just in pain because of that. But I had a couple of groin operations on that same groin at 19 and 22. Hamstring issues began after that. My lower back in the mid-20s started to go. And it just started to really hurt. Sciatica kind of came from that. I mean, I started making old man noises, you know, at 25 years old. I'd go to open a cupboard and I would genuinely say, "Oh," you know, it's like, I was like, "Oh my God, I hate that noise," but I keep doing it. And, you know, even bending over would just be, I think you said it in a few of your videos, like, I can't do that. You know, that's too much for me. Even though,
Yeah, it was fearful.
yeah, oh, the fear, Jesus, you know, I'd rather speak in front of 10,000 people rather than bend over. It got to that point. It was terrible. But then I kept thinking this can only get better because it's that bad at the moment. But then it didn't, because the sciatica went into my calves. My groin pain came back. I had an ablation for that, you know, where they burn off the nerve, and that was quite enjoyable. And
Not
then
really.
I know I had a great doctor doing it though. She made it fun. But then things like, you know, I had a rotator cuff injury which led to surgery. And then my back started up again, and I had IDD treatment where they try and separate your back. I think it's spinal decompression. That was pretty unenjoyable. Started to work for a bit, then I realized it actually, I just lost. I didn't really believe it. I just thought, this is, you know, rubbish.
Yeah.
But I like the woman who was helping me do it at the time. She was fun, so I kept doing it. I don't know why, but that, you know, but you know, her belief in the whole thing kept me going with it, and I thought, wow, there must be something to this. But again, I kept ignoring my intuition that it's not that, and I know it's not that. Something actually happened when I was doing that IDD treatment, and I had a bad panic attack, and I'd never had one before, and my whole body seized up. I mean, I genuinely thought this might be a stroke, or I might be dying here. And she calmly explained that you're having a panic attack. I don't know why. There's probably a lot going on, whatever. But my back really got painful during the treatment that day, and I thought, hold on, I know, I just intuitively know there's emotions behind this. Again, I just repressed that because I thought that will sound ridiculous to most people and to myself, because I've grown up in, you know, the Western society of let's ignore all that, and it's got to be physical, it's got to be structural. But there's a picture of you on your website actually, of you lopsided like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was me. Honestly, that was me. Oh
That's
God.
what the back spasms will do.
Yeah, I was amazed at how powerful they can be, actually. But that kind of brought it home. You know, you kind of look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh my God, is this me for the rest of my life? Um, you know, and then migraines started. I started getting really bad migraines, which made work quite hard, just made life quite hard, actually. You know, without the violin being played, it was a tough time. Had another operation on my shoulder, sorry, another injection in my shoulder, even though, again, I thought it seems to get worse when I'm not in a mentally in a good place, or if I know like there's something been on my mind for ages and I just won't address it, things started to hurt again. And again, but at this point, I hadn't ever heard about TMS, didn't know what it was. And
So how did
then,
you find out about Sarno and TMS?
well, it was great, actually, because in last summer I got married, and we were going on holiday and on honeymoon, and I just had a flare up of my back again out of nowhere because I thought I'd beaten it almost. I started doing meditations 2 years ago with, I don't know if you know his work, Joe Dispenza's work,
Oh, sure.
and that really helped. And I thought, you know what, I've beaten this. But then it started to kind of inch back into my life, started hurting again. And just before honeymoon, I had a flare up, and I thought this could ruin my honeymoon. Panic came in, it really did.
Sure.
And I'd lost my sister the year before in December 21. And
Wow.
yeah, no, cheers. And I'll be honest, I sometimes talk to her, just like say, look, come and help me out with this. And I said to her, look, Ruth, I really need some help this time. You know, give me something that will sort this out. And I'd actually posted on a Joe Dispenza Facebook group a question just about meditation, and someone responded, by the way, check this book out. And I hadn't really asked for it. I hadn't asked for that at all, but he said, check this book out. It was Dr. Sarno's Healing Your Back.
Right.
And honestly, I got that. I got on honeymoon, and I was the most boring bloke for the first 2 days. I just listened to it straight. I tend to listen to audiobooks.
Sure.
And I just felt like I was calling him John by the end of it out loud. I was like, John, you're speaking to me. I feel it. That's the one.
That's
You know,
awesome.
it was, but it was almost like it was intuitively, again, that word intuitively. I'd known it all along that it wasn't structural, and it was, that was my thing. You know, when he talked about all the different personality types, you know, I've got them here in terms of, you know, kind of, you want to be a perfectionist, you worry, you know, have been angry, you know, all these. I mean, I'm looking at the 10 bullet points here off the website, and every single one of them was me, is still me, but I'm working on them all. And you know, I used to think it was funny that my family called me Mr. Angry, but then when I woke up a couple of years ago, I was like, why am I angry?
But
You know,
why?
I support Watford Football Club, and we're terrible pretty much most of the times, and that's for one reason, but it can't be that all the time. Um, but it was, you know, I read it, and the first night of reading, I listened to the first half of the book. There was a gym at this place, this hotel we were at, and I just went for a run, and I hadn't run in 3 years. You know, even though I consider myself to be a fit guy, I was like, I don't actually run anymore. That's really sad. I'm going for a run, and it was one of the best moments of my life, honestly. Just running, and yeah, it was. If I'd ever suggested a run before, I know you've addressed this in your videos. You know, people tell you, oh, you know, be careful, or don't run for too long, or I don't know, you know what it is. Don't put an incline on the running machine, you know. And but I did all of those, and it felt good. And the thing was, I talked to my brain. I know Sano brings that up. I know you've addressed that. I talked to my brain on the running machine that night, and you know, telling myself I'm safe. There's no structural problem wherever it's starting to hurt, and that was, apart from being a bit mad, feeling a bit mad in the gym when someone walked in and I was there. I thought, right, this is it. I have to do this. I had to explain to her afterwards, and I'm not sure she really understood, but it worked, and I thought, I've got it. This is it, you know. So that was the start of the journey from last year, really.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so have you also been a lot more inclined to just approach any of your discomfort from a TMS perspective and stop running from doctor to doctor for treatments?
Yeah,
That's good.
totally. I mean,
Saves you a lot of time and money, right?
um, a huge amount of money, a huge amount of, when I often think back to my meetings with doctors, and I just think I'm not annoyed. I never get annoyed at doctors because I know they're trying to do their best, and they often do a good job. But I just felt like they're in the same cycle of conditioning as me. They
Mhm.
see things the same way, and it was just there was a great doctor actually I saw a couple of years ago. I had groin pain again, and I went to see this guy, and I'd seen him 2 years before, and he said, "Look, you've had an MRI. There's nothing wrong." And he used to toss cables in Scotland. He's a big fella, and he said to me, "Have you ever considered that you got a bit of emotion going on?" And for him to say that to me, he was a big guy. I can imagine him fighting, a real typical man in my view. He would never believe that kind of stuff. And I just I I thought he's talking rubbish. But when I went to see him again, he said, "Look, I'm not actually going to come and see you today. I'm going to send my assistant to remind you there's nothing wrong with your groin." And yeah, that for me, that is funny actually, because the Chinese, I think it's in the East, let's go East. They say the left side of your body is about problems with females in your life, and the right side of your body is about males in your life and work. And I've heard that from so many people, and I started to pay attention to that because just after my sister died, for no particular reason, I got huge pain in my left forearm. I couldn't even raise my arm.
Right.
But the moment I started addressing that emotion of grief, it went away after about 4 weeks, and it was particularly painful to deal with it. But I felt like the same with that, that emotion of knowing my sister had been ill for quite a few years. Like on the left side of my body were most of my injuries. And I kind of thought, well, I don't know that for sure, but it seemed to fit that it was emotion, because I didn't ever address it. I didn't want to address it because it was very painful. And when that doctor put me onto it, he was almost the start of this whole, I wouldn't be surprised if he were someone who would believe in TMS himself and tell people about it as well, because he struck me as an open-minded guy. But now, coming back to your original question, now if I feel pain, I still put on my running gear. I go running 3 times a week now, at least.
Nice.
I do Krav Maga. We get into all sorts of positions. Stuff like when I'm being held down, I'm bent over, but thinking, oh, I don't now think, God, is my back going to handle this? I just think, how am I going to stop him killing me? And hopefully I can kill him first,
Right.
my fighting partner. But, it's an amazing feeling. My thought pattern has totally changed from, is this going to hurt, to, just not thinking about it. And that's a great place.
You don't feel fragile.
No, that's it. That's it. Because I convinced myself that I was fragile and that life was too difficult, and from that came back problems, and it really was. I just thought life was very, very unfair and difficult, and I couldn't see many positives going on, even though there are hundreds of positives in my life. And my lower back kind of seemed to all the pain accumulated there. And but yeah, like today, for example, this morning, ever since I emailed you last week saying that I'd love to do a testimonial, my body has gone into pain, and it made me laugh because I thought, I know what you're doing.
Messaged me. Yeah, you sent me an email.
Honestly, as I started emailing you, I felt the pain. Honestly, with old injuries that I haven't, they just felt all like they came back, saying my ego or my body or these emotions saying, no, 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 we're not having that. I'll let you run, but you're not doing a testimonial. And that genuinely, it made me laugh when I did it. And this morning was the kind of climax of all that, because I ran to the gym this morning. I thought my body, I felt like a bit of a fraud this morning, because I thought I can't wait to do this testimonial, but I'm in so much pain this morning. Where's it come from? But then I stopped and I thought, this is where the training comes in. I know it's TMS because when I run, my pain moves from my right knee, then it disappears, then it goes into my left calf, and then it knows it. When I say there's no structural pain in my left calf, it moves to my right calf, which has a go there, and then it disappears. It's like I'm reading the book through my body, and then it goes to my lower back, and then it goes because it realizes it can't affect me there anymore. And when I keep saying I'm safe, but more than saying it, I'm doing it. That's what you said in your video the other day.
Show the brain.
Yeah, show it. You can say it all you want, but go and do it, and then your brain will be like, oh yeah, okay. You wouldn't go and work with a mentor who hadn't done something before. It's the same principle, I believe. You've got to show your brain. And so I ran to the gym this morning. The first 10 yards down here, my body was screaming, "You're not doing this today. We're not that person." But I was like, I am actually that person. And I swear to you, by the time I got around the back road onto the main road to the gym, I was running full pelt. I couldn't feel any pain. It felt good. And I thought, that's the training. That's the work. That is
it's the belief system that says, I'm not buying into the fear.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing how quickly the brain responds to a message that says, I'm actually okay. I'm going to run. All right. And it's not your body that's putting up a fight. It's your brain.
Yeah.
It's your brain going, we got scary stuff going. Hey, we're doing a testimonial. You don't want somebody to think you're a fraud because you still have some symptoms once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But what you've just proven is you are absolutely a success story because you've been able to take, even just this morning, some significant pain and go, stop. We're not doing this. This is not a problem. There is nothing there. So one of the things that I point out frequently is that there's no cure for pain, but there is a cure for chronic pain. And so you're going through a human experience and you've got some symptoms popping up here or there. But what you've done is you've learned and you've implemented and you've taught your own brain that none of this is going to become chronic or persistent. You're not going to get back into that well of despair that you were in before because you understand how it works and you are no longer afraid and you are not giving it the attention or fear that is the fuel to make things chronic. And as a result, you can have things shut off within minutes.
Yeah. It makes me smile when you say it because I know that's what happened this morning. It's an amazing thing. And I did not think that was possible. Really, I found your website, found Sano back in, what was it, September? I didn't think it was possible for that.
And so how many years worth of symptoms have you had? Like, how old are you now?
I'm 39.
Okay. And you said you started having problems in your teens.
Yeah.
So on and off. Some of them you've called true injuries, like a football injury in the groin. That could have been a legitimate pull, some actual injury. But, I would venture to say that many of those things that you talked about have been TMS all along.
Yeah.
And so you've got close to 20 years worth of symptoms. And at this point, you're now in a different place where you're no longer afraid of a fragile body because you realize it's not the body.
Yeah.
And you now have a set of tools at your disposal, which will help you anytime you feel some discomfort.
Yeah.
Very quickly to say, shh, brain, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's brilliant.
One of these things I've found is that since I've started doing all this stuff, sometimes people ask me, so I'm at the gym and there's a guy there, personal trainer, he's a really good guy. And he heard me on the running machine one day because I thought, I feel like I have to say this out loud to get myself through this run. This was a few months ago. And I was saying to myself, I'm safe. There's no problem in my left groin. There's no problem about that thing again. And he heard, and afterwards he said, were you speaking to yourself on the treadmill? And I was like, yeah, I was. And he goes, have you ever heard of a guy called John Sarno? And I was like, oh my God. And when you're just kind of like you're embarrassed a bit. I was a bit embarrassed by how my method of kind of talking to my brain, because I was like, it doesn't for me just work by talking in my head. It has to be out loud. And he said he'd done the same thing, and you just realize that and he'd overcome serious pain over a few years, and it's quite nice, and that's why this community. I mean, me and you haven't worked together, that, but it has helped so much by having watched all your videos, and I often run. So it sounds a bit stalkerish, but I run with you in my ears quite often, or one of your testimonials. There's a couple of guys in particular in your testimonials who just keep me going. I love their stories. They're very depressing, but then their outcomes. The guy who was from India, moved to America, then went to Sweden. I think he was a rapper.
Hardeep.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah. I loved his testimonial. And there was another guy. I think was he Australian?
Nick?
He'd had a particularly hard time, but their testimonials, again, if as well as my thing of these days, I can talk to my brain and calm it down. I think about those two guys and the other guys, but particularly those guys, and it really, I just remind myself that this is all manageable, and I'm not going to be in pain for very long if it happens, and all's good. I can live my life. So it's a good place to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually hear from those guys once in a while. They'll keep in touch through some messenger and just catch up once in a while. And Hardeep was just out in the United States to visit for a little bit. And so, yeah, good people. And they're just proof, and you're proof that this stuff actually works. Definitely. And that this is the accurate assessment of what's going on and what causes pain and what causes chronic pain, and that there is a solution. And the solution is really accurate knowledge that you're really not broken, you're not fragile, and that, as a result of stress, emotions, perceived danger, your brain can turn on a symptom like that. And what Will is showing here is that when you recognize what's going on, you can quickly look at the brain and go, what gives? There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Watch me go on this run. And then you have that conversation with yourself, and very quickly the brain goes, oh, that's right, he's okay. And things can turn off, which is wonderful. And I'd rather have a success story like this to show the process than somebody who goes, yeah, I was doing this and all of a sudden the pain went away and it hasn't ever come back and I've never been tested or anything like that. What you're showing is the reality of the recovery process, which is truly when you get to the place where it goes from here intellectually, I'm okay, to holy cow, I'm really okay. I believe it. So in my opinion, this is a more powerful success than somebody who just, pain was here and then it's gone and I never heard from it again.
I would have preferred that, but yeah.
You would have preferred it, sure. And you still might prefer it because you're still like, oh, geez, I got to, have a conversation with myself again. But you really don't. And look, 100% transparency, once in a while, I will get some symptoms.
Yeah.
Not often. In the past 12, 13 years, I probably had 3, maybe 4 cases of symptoms. One not that long ago, in the fall, my mom was going through some tough times, and I got some back pain, lower back pain, and spasm, and pulled me out of alignment again. And
how long for though?
Huh?
How long were you out of alignment for? How long did it hurt for?
Well, this time?
That time, when you got the back spasm.
Oh, it might have lasted, a few days, a week.
Yeah.
And that was recently, but I knew what it was. I called it out for what it was. I knew it was TMS, and as I call it, perceived danger pain. Mom had just had a stroke, and there was a lot of chaos emotionally, in the family, and having to go to the rehab facility and help her out and watch as she's dealing with the stress and the, overwhelm of what she just went through. So I had some pain come back, but I gave it zero fear, zero attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it never became chronic. Within a week, it kind of faded away.
It's fantastic.
So
hearing that, I mean, that's a testimonial in itself, isn't it? So that's.
But that's where you're at, because you're no longer becoming afraid by sensations. You quickly recognize this is what it is. Here's my solution.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful success because it just proves that you can be a human being, have things going on in your life, good, bad, and different,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know and trust that you're a young, fit 39-year-old in a healthy, strong body. And even if it hurts once in a while, no big
If
deal.
you said that to me 2 years ago, I'd have thought you're lying to me. I thought I'm old. I feel like an
Yeah,
old
you're a
bloke.
37-year-old in an 85-year-old body. It's how you
I
probably
was.
felt.
I was. I mean, changing the bins was the hardest workout I ever did, back then. But yeah, I just wish more people. I think the more people can become open-minded to this kind of thing.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it. Well, I kind of am saying we're right. People who do it because we know it works. I know it works, and I feel my frustration comes actually sometimes when I hear people who talk about chronic pain, and I want to help them. It's because I know how sad it is to hear it, and just I've kind of recommended they look at your work, Sarno's work, and some people, I don't do it too much, but a couple of people have dismissed it immediately as just it's just rubbish. They don't believe that it has to be structural. But all right, fair enough. You do what works for you. But there is a lady at my gym who recently she was going through quite a bit, and I got to know her a tiny bit. A couple of conversations, recommended you and Sano, and I just saw her yesterday. We didn't speak, but she had told me that she was reading the work, and I saw her yesterday doing stuff that I haven't seen her do for a lot. I mean, we tend to be at the gym at the same time. She was doing some pretty tough stuff, and I thought, I think you might be using that stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so it works. So thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem at all, man. And it's not that, this stuff works. The reason this stuff works is because it's based on how the brain and pain actually functions,
Yeah,
right? It's not that, if you truly broke your arm, you're going to think your way out of pain. It's going to hurt until it heals, right? Um, so one of the key things that I constantly work on with the people in the community is when people say, but I have this wrong with my body.
yeah,
Why isn't this working for me? I'm like, because you think your body's the problem. That's why.
mm-hmm.
And that's not what's going on. So for anybody who's really stuck on my body, my body, my body, don't be surprised that this stuff doesn't work for you because you're missing the key ingredient, which is an understanding of how the brain and pain functions, how it works. And
Yeah,
when you realize that pain is a horrible indicator of the condition of the body, but it is a very reliable indicator of your brain's perception of danger. Sometimes that danger is conscious, we're aware of it. Sometimes it's in the subconscious, we're not aware of it. Sometimes the danger is, physical movement, body position, exercise, you name it. Other times it could be an emotional stressor like the pressure of, hey, I'm getting married, going on a honeymoon, and somewhere in the back of your mind, your subconscious went, boy, I hope you don't get back pain this week because that would really stink. It would ruin the honeymoon. And
yeah,
that may be just enough of a subconscious, perception of danger for your brain to go, oh, let's tighten something up.
yeah.
And yeah, it's all about perceived danger, conscious, subconscious. Um, yeah. So,
I would encourage people to talk to themselves. I know it sounds, I know Sano says that, but do talk to yourself. I mean, like, where I've replaced those noises of kind of, bending
ooh,
down to do something, and in the past that oof, now I kind of I actually do say this is easy or
sure,
I'm safe, just to tell my back I'm saying it and I'm doing it and we're good with this. And
sure.
now I just, in doing yoga, kind of doing yoga, I can't believe I'm saying that, but just, bending down, hang, when she says hang, hang and stretch your hamstrings out, I used to just think at any moment my back is going to go, and you're going to carry me out, and it, you know, and it, I would come out of those classes in pain beyond belief, but
Sure.
or having to leave. Now I just laugh as I'm kind of,
And it's all driven by the brain perceiving that this position called hang is dangerous because you had enough experiences with bending and pain.
yeah.
And your brain just learned, uh-oh, he's doing that dangerous thing again. You're no longer afraid of it. And
I think my
therefore you no
brain
longer,
actually enjoys it now.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah, no, it's great. It's great. So thank you very much for all your work and all your videos.
anything else you want to share with the audience or
Um,
I think this was great.
yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. It's nice to say it actually. It's funny actually because just before this, my again, I got a tweak and I was like, I know you're trying to stop me doing this testimonial, but it's all gone away. Just saying it and just being honest about it. I think also, you said when people. One more thing is my family naturally also they love me and they when I go and see my mum and dad and the rest of the family, they'll say, and we're staying the night, they say, are you all right to stay on that bed? It's quite a tough bed. Because in the past, I used to say it is a very tough bed. I'm convinced it's made out of stone. But now I'm just like, I don't care. I could sleep on the floor if you need me to. I don't care.
It's not the bed, dude. It's not the bed. Never was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But, and it's taken them a while to, do you know what the biggest thing? I've just stopped talking about it. I don't talk about my back anymore. I don't talk about my injuries. And when they obviously ask, how's your back? Yeah, it's good. And then I'll say what I'm doing, and it's again, it's just reinforcing. Oh, I'm playing tennis again, playing football again, and running again. And the smile on their face, to be honest, is worth it because it means a lot to them. And it also reinforces the next conversation that they haven't asked me how my back is in a long time now, and that feels good, so even
Yeah.
if a few months that is. So yeah, but once
I
again,
found I found I had to coach people around me to stop asking. Like, yeah.
quite hard, isn't it? It's hard to do it.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Yeah,
we like the attention, we like the people caring, but I literally had to tell um my family, my friends, my neighbors, like, stop asking me about it. I don't want to talk about it. And that was even before I got well.
yeah,
But I was like, yeah, me talking about my pain is not helping me get rid of it. So, no, that's brilliant, man.
yeah, because it takes it out of your story, doesn't it? It was your story, now it's not my story, and
It's
that's
not
yeah, and that's the game, isn't it? Don't talk
not your
about.
story, but it is your history.
Well, it's something nice actually. I mean, it's something Joe Dispenza says that a past event without the emotion is called wisdom, and I feel like this applies to this. It's wisdom. I know why it went. My back used to hurt a lot because I was quite stressed about a lot of the things. Now I can look back and appreciate that. Give myself a bit more love, and but yeah, it just proves your brain can be talked to and it
Yeah,
can logicked out of this pain, which and I love that. I love it, and I'll probably do. I will do it for the rest of my life.
that's
Whenever.
awesome.
Yeah,
So what you've done is you've taken the intellectual knowledge and turned it into wisdom
yeah,
because now it's just a deep knowing that you're actually okay. And that's where I am, which is why if I have a symptom or I just don't care because I know exactly what's going on and I know it'll be temporary.
yeah,
So that's brilliant, man. Well,
yeah.
listen, I really appreciate you, Will. Thank you
Thanks
so
for your
much
time.
for being
Cheers.
willing to share the story. Yeah, man. It'll probably take a
I've
few.
kind of doubled over to see you on this camera angle instead of this big screen here on Zoom. I'm kind of like bent a little bit there. So, but do you know what? 47 minutes of an interview.
You feel good.
My back. I haven't even thought about my back once. Honestly, that's in the past. I would have been walking around the house trying to find a comfortable position. Now, honestly, it's life is different. So that's a good thing to say. Good feeling.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you doing this. It'll probably take a few days for it to post online. Just keep an eye on the YouTube channel and you'll see it there. People may ask questions. If you want to participate and answer them, that's great. If you don't and you just want to lay low, do that.
No, of
Whatever.
course. Some people help me with their comments in response to mine on their testimonials. So no, absolutely, I will, of course. So yeah, I
Awesome.
hope it helps.
Listen, man, if I can ever do anything for you, by all means, hit me up.
Cheers.
Otherwise, we'll see you in the comments on YouTube, which is where we met.
Will do. Will do. Cheers, Dan. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Take care.